Well, good day and welcome back to the channel. Well, today in 2026, there are a number of products out on the market that are purporting to be the equivalent of a digital typewriter, a dedicated writing device. And I think they are all essentially inspired by devices like this. This is the Alpha Smart Neo. This is essentially 1990s or early 2000s technology. These were made by Renaissance Learning. Initially, they were intended to be a classroom instruction keyboard with display and memory. And writers discovered these devices. They have a pretty good quality keyboard, internal memory. The battery life is really incredible. And these got really popular, and then Renaissance Learning quit supporting them. And the net result is people still have these, but they might be having hardware issues like the backup battery and things like that. And also, these devices, the Alpha Smart Neos especially, you could not transfer files, entire files, to and from your computer without their special software. That software is no longer being supported, so you have to essentially be a computer hobbyist who tinkers with antique Windows computers like Windows XP era in order to run the old software to file transfer text files to and from this device. So these have gotten kind of a little bit less useful over time, but there are a number of companies who have discovered this market for dedicated, focused writing products, what we might call digital typewriters. And I thought it would be fun today to cover, in broad terms, some of the more popular, well-known devices on the market right now in the digital typewriter or dedicated text editor space. Stay tuned. What essentially is it about typewriters that makes them useful for writing? What is it that makes them unique compared to using a computer or a cell phone connected to the internet? What properties do we value about typewriters in general? And I've narrowed it down to kind of three essential categories, and this is kind of philosophically what Dr. Richard Polt has covered in his book, The Typewriter Revolution. So I have an acronym, PAS. It's privacy, autonomy, and security. And by privacy, I mean being able to create with words without being surveilled by some technological state or technological consortium, right? It's security in the thoughts that are being placed down. And then the second part to that is autonomy. We should be able to create with whatever device we're using, independent of cloud-based services or even a Wi-Fi signal or special proprietary software. And then the third point is security. The transferring and archiving of our work in the terms of digital files should be independent of cloud storage, cloud services, or proprietary software. Now, given those three principles, you could actually say in some ways the Alpha Smart Neo failed in the sense of ultimately security, because you can transfer a file using the send command with a USB cable to a computer, and it's going to like rapidly type the characters into whatever word processing application you have open on your computer, but it's not really like file transferring, and you can't transfer the files two ways without using the antiquated, no longer supported Renaissance Learning software. You essentially have to be a computer hobbyist with an antique computer to do that. So in a sense, you could say that because their proprietary software is no longer being supported, that means the ability to write with this and really transfer the files the way you'd ideally want has been compromised. This goes back even further than the AlphaSmart devices. If you think about back in the 1990s and the first half of the 2000s, before the smartphone revolution, there were these devices called personal digital assistants, PDAs. And one of the most popular types was called a Palm Pilot. It was a Palm operating system. Palm operating system devices, you could back them up to your computer, except when you plug them in to your computer, the computer didn't recognize the device as a thumb drive or an external drive, the same with the AlphaSmart Neo. You had to have Palm OS desktop software on your computer in order to talk to the Palm device and transfer files either way. So again, those devices, including the AlphaSmarts, were kind of dependent on proprietary third-party software for file transfer, for managing the security of your files. And that's not an ideal condition compared to a typewriter where the security of your file is essentially the security of a piece of paper. You have paper here, you've typed on it, you physically secure the paper, and the file is secure. So one of the other features of these new class of digital typewriters, besides privacy, autonomy, and security, are focused writing. In other words, they only do one thing primarily. They are a text editor. And that is one of the primary things that gives them a typewriter-like aesthetic. So with that being said, let's start into the categories of different brands of these new devices. We'll look at the features, generally speaking, and compare them, how they all perform as far as privacy, autonomy, and security. Okay, the first brand we're going to talk about is probably the most well-known brand that's been the most developed in terms of the different models they have, and that is Freewrite. Now, if my memory serves me, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I think when the Freewrites first came out, they were called the Hemingwriter, and there was some kind of a legal dispute over the name, so they changed it to Freewrite. But they basically have three kinds of models. The standard model is called the Smart Typewriter. It uses an e-ink screen, and it has a mechanical style keyboard built in. The Smart Typewriter, the original model, sells for $699 US. And there are two other special variants. One of those is called the Hemingway Signature Edition, and that sells for $1,099. And the other version is called the Valentine Special Edition, and it sells for $999. And it is kind of stylistically designed to resemble the red Olivetti Valentine typewriter. So as Freewrite says on their website, Smart Typewriter is continually saving your writing locally to the device and to the cloud. All documents are automatically backed up once connected to Wi-Fi and are accessible in Freewrite's web application Postbox. Documents can also be synced to Dropbox, Google Drive, OneDrive, and Evernote. If you're ever off the grid, you can transfer documents by connecting to your Smart Typewriter to your computer with the included USB cable. So you can see here that Freewrite is working with the idea of, yeah, you can be private and autonomous, but they would prefer you to, or at least they're giving you this option to use the convenience of online cloud storage. Your choice. So the other model that they have is called the Traveler, and this sells for $549. Traveler spelled with one L, and I make that distinction because I had the Olympia Traveler C typewriter. I sold it recently, and that is spelled with two L's. But anyways, the Traveler by Freewrite is a clamshell closing device with a built-in e-ink screen. It's smaller and lighter than the Smart Typewriter, and it basically has very similar features as far as connectivity and backup. And then there is a device called the Alpha, and it sells for $349, and it is clearly styled or designed to resemble in some ways the AlphaSmart. It isn't this oddball trapezoid shape. It's more of a rectangle with rounded corners. It has an LCD screen with a backlight. There is a special variant of the Alpha called the Alpha Cosmic that sells for $150 more, for $499, and it has a colorful body. So Freewrite offers this service called Postbox, and it is their online interface for accessing your draft and your profile in your device settings. They also have an application called Sprinter, and Sprinter is really a web-based online typewriter-like text editor that you can access from most any mobile device or a computer. And then they have a subscription service called Freewrite Plus. And Freewrite Plus gives you extra things that you can do with your Freewrite device. So there are some limitations around what you can do with the Freewrite device if you don't pay to have this subscription service. So Freewrite's philosophy, Freewrite was designed from the start to facilitate the writing method of separating the drafting and editing processes, a cardinal rule of prolific writers everywhere. Getting your thoughts down first and revising later increases productivity and yields better, more creative work. Freewrite helps you find your flow to do just that. And what all that verbiage means is that in the initial version of Freewrite, there were no cursor keys. You could not navigate your document. If you wanted to do any correction, you could only backspace and delete what you typed. Then, since they've had the Generation 3 devices, they have included an embedded cursor keys using the WA and SD keys on the keyboard. So they have acceded to popular demand to have a little bit of editing capability, even though their initial philosophy from the very start was, we don't want you editing at all on this device. We want it to be just like a regular typewriter. You can only type forward, right? Even though we know that the Alpha Smart had a lot of editing capability built in. Okay, that's the Freewrite. They're really the big name in this space of dedicated, what you might call digital typewriters. The second biggest product is the remarkable e-ink tablets. These are very slim tablets. There's several different sizes, 3 sizes, and they use an e-ink screen. The lower end models use a black and white e-ink screen. The higher end models have a color e-ink screen. The remarkable e-ink tablets do not have an SD card slot. They're designed for cloud storage, either using Dropbox, Google Drive, or OneDrive, or a subscription to their Connect service. It does have a USB-C connector for recharging, and you can access your notes or documents in your phone or desktop via an app that you can put on your device. And they're really optimized for stylus entry, drawing, and writing. They can convert handwriting to text. And then there is an external folio keyboard, like a Bluetooth keyboard, that the device clips onto that enables you to operate it like a typewriter. And also, I think there's an embedded typewriter on the screen that you can pull up and tap on it to type if you don't want to use the handwriting feature. So the Remarkable 2 starts at about $400. It's a 7.5 by 9.5 inch monochrome display. The Remarkable Paper Pro is about $630. It's slightly bigger, 7.8 by 10.8 inches. It's a color display. Then they have the Remarkable Paper Pro Move, which is smaller than the Paper Pro, and it's for $450. It's a 7.7 by 4.24 display, color display. So the Remarkable tablets have a lot of advertising going on right now, and they're trying to position themselves to be a business solution for people to do presentations. And then with a Remarkable tablet, you can actually use them with a Zoom meeting and pull up the screen on a Zoom meeting and show your work. So they are kind of moving into that business space as a way to position themselves in the market differently from Freewrite. So the third device we'll cover is called Pomera. And Pomera is made by a Japanese company, and for years they've had a number of these little devices that were really tailored for the Japanese market. The keyboards had Japanese writing, the instructions were in Japanese, but they kind of appealed to a lot of kind of hackers and kind of alternative writer people who wanted a tiny little device, a folding device with a built-in keyboard. So in the spring of 2025, they released the DM250 US for the United States market. It costs $499. It is a Linux-powered ARM processor writer deck, a writer deck being a dedicated word text editor device. It has a folding 7-inch TFT display screen, an integral keyboard. It has 1.3 gigs of internal storage plus an SD card slot. It has a 20-hour battery life. It uses USB for charging and for the PC link, and it'll talk to either PC, Windows or Mac, the later operating system versions of Windows or Mac. You can transfer files. And it also will function as a Bluetooth keyboard for either iOS or Android 9 and later operating systems. And these are interesting little devices. This one is a little expensive for what it is. There is a New York Times article. The journalist bought one of these and used it for quite a while, and he gave his opinion on it. He thought it was pretty good. I think his real complaint was the keyboard's a little too small, and at times he was having the keyboard double enter characters, a little bug or whatever. But these have been quite popular with people that are more handy with small electronics, and they want a tiny little device like that for writing. The Zerowriter is for $269. It has an e-ink screen. It has a built-in 60% mechanical keyboard. 60% keyboard meaning it doesn't have the cursor keys, and it doesn't have the number keypad, and it doesn't have dedicated function keys. They're embedded in the number row itself. It has weeks, like 50 to 100 hours of use per battery charge. No web services. It's an open source operating system. It has two modes. Drafting mode for entering text, no edits, and then there's a text editing mode. It'll save the files into an SD card. It has an internal memory backup, and you can import text files via an SD card, so you can import files to it. And it has, they offer customizable keycaps and customizable case enclosures, and the device is Raspberry Pi based. And I think it's a Kickstarter project. So that is one of these things that is definitely more in the line of ensuring privacy and not needing web or cloud-based connectivity. So another device is called Supernote. Supernote is an e-ink tablet. It's handwriting based, similar to the Remarkable, but it has an upgradable motherboard, upgradable storage, and upgradable battery. And they support being able to take it apart and replace these modules as needed. It has handwriting recognition that actually works offline. Some of these e-ink tablets, the handwriting recognition only works when it's connected to the server. It uses gestures on the tablet screen. You can sync it to various cloud surfaces and cross platforms, and it does email. And they have two models. One of them is called the Manta. It starts from $505. It's a 10.7-inch display. It does file transfer via USB thumb drive or local Wi-Fi. And then there's the Nomad from $329. It's 7.8 inches in size, and it has expandable storage via mini USB. The BYOK stands for Bring Your Own Keyboard. The full retail price is $179, but the introductory price on Kickstarter is like $130. And I have gotten in on the Kickstarter on this. I have not received my device yet. This is a smartphone-sized screen device that interfaces to a keyboard, either wired keyboard via USB-C or a Bluetooth keyboard. It has an LCD screen with an adjustable warm colored backlight, so you can adjust the lighting. It has a magnetic mount like smartphones have, and you can mount it to various smartphone magnetic mounts. It has micro SD card for storage, and it uses USB-C for file transfer and charging. It has about a 20-hour battery life per charge. And it will also, though, do cloud syncing using the BYOK Studio app if you choose to use it. And you can access the BYOK Studio from any device you can use their app in. It also has an easy-to-replace internal rechargeable battery. Should the battery ever fails, the manufacturer has supported the consumer to easily replace the battery. You can also turn off Wi-Fi for privacy and better battery life. So that's the BYOK. I'm really interested in that device as well, and I'm really anxious to get mine. I've been waiting, and they've been delayed in delivering their Kickstarter. I think it started in 2024 because they've been trying to make sure the product is right and all that. So they are now shipping this month, so I'm anxious to get mine. So a few years ago, I wanted to get me a nice mechanical keyboard for my computer and also to use with my iPad. And I was interested in this brand called Keyboard Paradise. This is a 60% size mechanical keyboard, and they use Cherry MX key switches. But you can order these keyboards with various types of Cherry switches, so I didn't know which one I wanted, and the various Cherry MX key switches have different kinds of clickiness and different feel to them. So I ordered this Cherry MX key switch tester. It's basically a sampler of all 6 of the different kinds of Cherry MX switches that they had available. And there's the blue and brown and red and white and all that. And I chose the Cherry MX Brown for this keyboard, and that's what it has in it. Nice clicky feel to it, nice small size. So this keyboard has a nice heft to it. It's built on a very solid backplane. This keyboard came with a Windows keycap Legends, but there are dip switches in the back. You can configure it for either Windows or Mac. And it uses a mini USB connector. And so in preparation for getting my BYOK device, I bought mini USB to USB-C coiled cable, and I bought a magnetic mount to use the BYOK with. So I'm anxious to get the BYOK and start using it. And I didn't really want to use a Bluetooth keyboard because I didn't like the idea of having to recharge a keyboard all the time. I like the idea of security, being able to type without a Bluetooth signal radiating. So I'm really anxious to start using this keyboard with a BYOK device. And yeah, it came with its own little carrying pouch that I currently have been keeping my Apple Lightning to USB cable adapter dongle so I can use this keyboard with my iPhone or my iPad mini. And so that has been one solution for, writing with my iPad mini. I usually use the IA Writer app with this keyboard. But I'm really looking forward to this dedicated BYOK device that is disconnected from the internet, has more focused writing. So when we talk about privacy, autonomy, and security with these dedicated digital typewriter-like devices, we can see that the various brands offer variations in privacy, autonomy, and security. For instance, the Freewrite and the Remarkable are definitely more web connected, cloud connected. They're not as good as far as being completely offline and being completely autonomous. The BYOK is much more of an in-between product. It will completely support a offline, private, secure workflow. But it also gives you the opportunity to have a more convenient cloud-connected workflow if that's what you choose. And the Zerowriter is very similar to that, and also the Pomera is quite secure and has good connectivity that you can do yourself and not rely upon some app or a proprietary software. So I'm not as keen on the dedicated e-ink tablet products like Remarkable. I think I like the idea of more of an Alpha Smart-like device, and the BYOK is going to be a little rectangular thing that is essentially the screen and the electronics, and then I use whatever keyboard I want to use. So that's the overview of most of the dedicated digital typewriter-like devices offered on the market right now. I probably missed a few. If I did, drop a note down below. And if you've owned one of those devices I talked about, tell me how you like it. Tell me what you like about it, what you don't like about it. Tell me what you would like to see improved. I'd love to have a discussion about it. And as always, this is about creativity, creating with words, securely, safely. And as always, stay creative and have yourselves a great day. And bye-bye for now.